All right, yesterday, the Food and Drug Administration confirmed a rule change that allows pharmacies to sell chemical abortion pills directly to pregnant women who have prescriptions, potentially turning your local CVS or Walgreens into an abortion facility. Well, given the well-documented risk these experimental pills pose to women's health, why would the FDA approve such a measure? Is this following the science? As the Family Research Council has documented, there has been an effort dating back to the Clinton administration in the 90s to manipulate the FDA approval process for these drugs. And now the Biden administration's FDA has pushed the envelope even further. Joining me now to discuss this is Chris Gacek, Senior Research Fellow here at the Family Research Council. Chris, welcome back to the program.
It's good to be with you, Tony.
So the history of manipulating the FDA approval process for these drugs dates back to the 1990s. Tell us about this.
Well, the second full day of the Clinton administration, President Clinton signed an executive order that essentially called for the creation of an Operation Warp Speed for abortion, for chemical abortion drugs. And so they spent the next 80 months working to approve an abortion drug, and that's what they did. In September of 2000, just a little bit before the end of the administration and the 2000 election, they approved RU46, which is what it was sort of referred to then, or mifepristone or mifeprex, to be sold as an abortifacient.
Now we have this, according to the latest data, over half of all abortions last year were chemical abortions accomplished through these drugs. So walk us through what the FDA announcement yesterday will actually do.
Well, I think essentially what you have to know is that over time, the FDA and the abortion industry has been on a path to liberalize and reduce the restrictions or the safeguards and the safety provisions that were in place to protect the health and safety of women who are taking this drug. And so there's been a sort of a slow elimination of those provisions, essentially to get other, there has to be in the old days, there had to be a kind of a way of another provider or a person had to sort of see the patient. And what they've wanted to do all along is move toward a system where it's almost like it's going to be over the counter or just a prescription, where you still have a person, that you're in touch with, but they want to make it easier and easier and easier. So and that's sort of the trend line.
But this could be telemed. I mean, you could just have a consultation Sure. over the phone. You get a prescription emailed to you. You go to the pharmacy. You go to CVS, you go to Walgreens, they become the abortion facility. You go home and you take the drug. And you can also get them by mail. So, I mean, this is essentially abortions by mail as well, is it not?
Right. And one of the things about the pharmacies is that they're going to have to go through a sort of a certification process. But all along, this is a way to get less capable people in charge of dispensing the drug and interacting with the person who wants the abortion.
Now, I'm going to talk about the health implications of this in just a moment with Dr. Ingrid Skop, who has studied this issue. But so I don't want to get into that just yet. But this would essentially, if I'm looking at this correctly, this could turn CVS, Walgreens, I mean, we don't know what they're going to do, but if they go down this path, they become the abortion facilities of America.
Oh, exactly. So that's essentially what they want. They wanted to get out of a restricted set of abortion providers to widen the scope, to make it more available. And they're hoping, the abortion industry and probably the FDA, they're hoping that these people, these drugstores and pharmacies will take them up on this offer to become the dispensers of the drug, and that would make them essentially, abortionists.
So what happens to those pharmacists that work for these big conglomerates that have conscience issues? We've worked legislatively, but we've seen it wiped away by this administration when it comes to the conscience protections of healthcare providers, including pharmacists.
I think it's going to be a big problem because we've seen with Plan B and probably, drugs in other contexts, that if you have a conscientious objection to a drug, not only will your company sometime, the Walgreens or the CV, maybe not, I don't want to use brand names, but the sort of the big firms, they might not recognize your rights. But then you're going to have, if you're in a state like Washington or some of these very liberal states, your pharmacy board and people like this are going to put pressure on you to dispense these drugs. So they're in a bind because until now, abortion drugs were not available through sort of the mass market pharmacies. And so now all of these companies are going to have to sort of figure out what they want to do.
All right, final question for you, Chris Gacek. The process by which the FDA promulgated this new path, is this the way it's supposed to work?
It's the way it's always worked with RU46. I mean, the FDA is very, as we found out with the vaccines and and we found out more about that, it's a very closed system. So it's not open to public comment. It's not open to public inspection. And in the case of RU46, they didn't really allow it even in the the 1990s. So it's never. They want it this way. They don't want people to know what the process is, and they've been very secretive about what they've been doing.
Is it politicized?
I think it's been politicized from the word go.
All right. Chris Gacek?
1992.
Yeah, well, and we're seeing more of that. Chris Gacek, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your insight.
You're welcome.